To the utter consternation of EU governing elites that are actively trying to break down the ethnic and cultural homogeneity of member nations, Orbán has sought to rebuild his country's national pride, whether based in truth or not, as his detractors have accused him of. He has embraced ethnic Hungarians in neighboring countries such as Romania, Slovakia, and Serbia, who are the descendants of the 3 million people stranded when the Trianon Treaty stripped Hungary of 2/3 of its territory after the First World War. Orbán's government exhorts Hungarian mothers to have more children. Marriage is restricted to heterosexual couples only. The preamble to the newly written constitution talks of an abiding need for spiritual and intellectual renewal after the moral decay of the 20th century. It declares, "We believe that our children and grandchildren will make Hungary great again with their talent, persistence, and moral strength." In a speech given in 2014, Orbán called for the breaking of the dogmas and ideologies that have been adopted by the West, and held up China, Russia, and Turkey as models of successful states that feel no need to import the division and strains on social cohesion via multiculturalism that Western states are ideologically drunk with. In 2015, massive, uncontrolled numbers of migrants from the Middle East and beyond began crashing into Hungary as the EU failed to protect its external borders. Virtually all wanted to continue westward to the welfare states of Northern Europe, and Orbán, in contrast to celebrations in Germany and the wanton carelessness shown by leaders in Western Europe for their countries and their citizens, sees unending millions arriving from culturally incompatible cultures, many if not most hostile to Western European liberalism, as a threat to the ethnic homogeneity of Hungary. Orbán labeled the millions seeking a life on handouts in the welfare states of Europe as a Trojan horse of terrorism and a threat to Europe's Christian culture and identity. And for that reason, a 230-mile double-layered fence topped with razor wire was hastily constructed along Hungary's border with Serbia and Croatia. On this issue, Orbán has said, "Because there are just 10 million Hungarians, we can't accept that 10% of our population are people we don't know anything about or what their intentions are and can't be integrated." Also, in contrast to former colonial powers, we don't have any sense of guilt towards them. We never colonized them, we never bombed them, we have nothing to make up for. For his sense of solidarity with the Hungarian people, his nationalism, and his refusal to accept the diktats emanating from Brussels, he has been demonized in the Western media that take to amplifying his detractors' claims that he rules in an increasingly autocratic and corrupt manner. And among other things, they claim that his government rewards loyal oligarchs with state contracts, that he seeks to gag the independent media, packs key institutions that are supposed to be politically neutral with supporters, and vilifies his opponents. Joined by Poland and the Czech Republic, states that were also subsumed by communism for decades, Orbán's Hungary stands in defiance against the UN and EU demands that they take their fair share of the vibrant enrichment that is universally touted as being the saviors of Europe's economies, countries, and cultures. Just last week, Hungary has rejected German demands to accept an EU court ruling backing a plan for member states to take quotas of refugees, with its foreign minister pledging to wage a significant legal battle against the judgment. In response to German demands, Orbán has demanded himself 400 million euros from the EU to pay for the country's new border wall with Serbia. As he said, Hungary was protecting all of the citizens of Europe from the migrant crisis. He's even gone further to highlight his belief that the massive, uncontrolled flow of people into the EU will have catastrophic results, and has recently said that his country will open its arms to West Europeans fleeing mass immigration and what he calls the lords of globalist politics. "We shall let in true refugees," Mr. Orbán told a cheering audience. "Germans, Dutch, French, and Italians, terrified politicians and journalists who are here in Hungary want to find the Europe they have lost in their homelands." Globalist politicians, Mr. Orbán contended, are seeking to sweep away a democracy of debate and replace it with a democracy of political correctness, where true power, decisions, and influence are not held by elected governments but by unelected global networks, media gurus, and international organizations. He cited Britain's vote to leave the European Union and Donald Trump's election in the United States as episodes of wider popular revolt against what he calls the arrogance and condescension of global elites by ordinary people whose mouths have been gagged for far too long. There is no way back from a multicultural Europe, neither to a Christian Europe, nor to a world of national cultures, he added. If we make a mistake now, it will be forever. As the continued migrant crisis tears the continent apart, many analysts are warning that if unresolved, it could spell doom for the European Union, and they may be right. On the heels of a humiliating election result, Chancellor Angela Merkel has threatened Hungary with expulsion from the troubled bloc unless they accept unwanted, unwelcome, and uninvited vibrant enrichment that is so cherished by the European political elite in the West. Orbán, for good or ill depending on your perspective, in Brussels and the wider media has been fairly or unfairly demonized for daring to oppose Merkel's invitation to the world, as well as liberal orthodoxies about immigration and political correctness. Western Europe is drunk with its ideological utopian platitudes, and if Orbán is right, it's going to be one hell of a hangover. And if Europeans do begin to flee their vibrantly enriched multicultural states, as they already are by the hundreds of thousands in cities like London, Malmo, Marseille, and Berlin, Orbán will most likely be remembered as one of the most significant and influential shapers of Europe in the 21st century. Oh, and one more thing. During that revolution in 1956, Soviet collaborators and those that helped assist the repression of the Hungarian people, including state security officers, were the first put up against the wall. Remember, it's the traitors that always come first.